Why are you up?
Because I got some important shit going on here. What do you think?
Boom, the world class.
Absolutely. We're actually about to see Poppy in a second. So we Jey Ali, this is like your exchange was the last straw now. For me. It wasn't bad. This was with you and Ali. Icon, whatever his name is. And it wasn't nowhere close as bad as these. And it wasn't that he was wrong. It's just for me, the incoherence in the conversation. And my foundation is this. When I said this to Savannah, I said this. These dudes just want to push their talking points, their YouTube manosphere talking points. And they don't hear, they don't care. And you constantly are getting, and you handle it well. Like I don't even think you was offended, but you handle it completely well. And I just kind of want people to see what I'm talking about. And I'm not trying to demonize the brother. It's not that the stuff that he's saying isn't facts. It's not that it's that, again, right message, wrong target. It's just like you have in your mind built up so many different talking points that you're just not listening and you're not even taking cues. And it speaks to why these dudes have problems with women in these spaces, in their real life anyway, because you don't listen. I don't know why it's so hard for dudes to listen, but it's a pretty helpful skill. Y'all niggas might want to try it. Well, I wouldn't help y'all.
I want to say something to Ali because I feel like we almost got into it in the chat earlier because you
and Jey Ali, stop me anytime. And if I'm mischaracterizing anything you say, you know where you come from. Just definitely let me know.
Said something about I can't remember exactly, but we were speaking about how some people's personalities don't mesh well with relationships. And I think I said something about I get tired of people quick, and you were like, "Oh, that means that you can't get along with people." And yes. I like to point out the fact that some people shouldn't be in relationships because it's just not within their personality to be with people long term. It's going to be some people that are built for that, and some people that are not. And I think that people that are not built to do that long term shouldn't pretend like they are and end up giving other people trauma. And I also said that I was, a loner by choice because I just don't really subscribe to the whole thing about being with people to the long term. It just doesn't work for me. So do you feel like there are some people that are not built to be in long-term relationships or married?
If they're built that way, they were raised that way, and they're inadequate as an individual. So if you grew up in a household that developed men and women and develop the mother and father energy in people in order to create relationships, you're going to be able to create relationships that have longevity. If you typically come from a broken home where you didn't have a man or woman, even though they were in the house or they weren't in the house, or a mother and father, you're going to struggle with relationships. So then a lot of women I see now, they strong and independent. They don't need marriage for security and stability. They complain and they say they.
All right, I can't. It's just call me petty. I want to go over the question one more time. This is what I'm talking about. It's like ready, set. It's my turn, right?
Some people that are not built to be in long-term relationships or married.
If they're
damn, I didn't realize he talked that
long. Because
Jeez.
I just don't really subscribe to the whole thing about being with people to the long term. It just doesn't work for me. So do you feel like there are some people that are not built to be in long-term relationships or married?
Do you feel like there are certain people that are not built for relationships or married, right? That's the question. Let's hear his response.
If they're built that way, they were raised that way, and they're inadequate as an individual.
That's not the question. That's not what you asked. It's not what you asked. Right off top. Let's see if it gets better from here.
So if you grew up in a household that developed men and women and developed the mother and father energy in people in order to create relationships, you're going to be able to create relationships that have longevity. if you typically come from a broken home where you didn't have a man or woman, even though they were in the house or they weren't in the house, or a mother and father, you're going to struggle with relationships. So
at that point, you gave a bad answer, but it had something to do with what was asked. Here come the part that irritates the shit out of me. You got, all right, it's time to, you got all your talking points queued up. You got shit you want to say for whatever reason, whether he liked Jay or he just want to get his shit off. I don't have no idea. If he got a channel, I have no idea. But this shit was incoherent. And now I'm just sitting there like, nigga.
then a lot of women I see now, they strong and independent. They don't need
for nothing. Had nothing to do with the question. Am I tripping? Now I'm gonna ask you here. Am I tripping, Jay? All right. Okay. I don't know. Maybe I'm,
need marriage for security and stability. They complain and they say they equal and they don't need anybody. They complain they don't have anybody, and then they go into therapy. So if you're so strong and have all the strength, why are so many women still looking for people, looking for friends, looking for companionship, having to get a cat and dog, but they don't know how to create relationships? They're focusing too much still on self-development and not on creating relationships with a man, woman, and being able to create.
Do you feel like there's people that are not built for long-term relationships? None of this has nothing to do with the question. This is fucking irritating. And why I'm frustrated is because it's going to be lives tomorrow. It's going to be lives later today. It's going to be lives next week. And we're going to have to go through this shit all day, nonstop. Incoherent responses. They don't understand questions. And it irritates the fucking shit out of me. It really does. Because I want to get my shit off. Versus just shutting up because you don't have an answer. Right. Irritating. And you are responding to a woman asking you a question and you just shooting blanks everywhere, trying to act like you're not targeting her or targeting people in the chat or targeting women that may watch it on the replay, and you taking away from the conversation. It's 7 other people here. One thing I don't like is when I see piss poor leadership in men. It irritates my fucking soul, because what have you been doing this whole time you've been alive? What have you been doing? Like, you don't understand it's not about you. I don't get that. I'm extremely talented. But I know I can't overshadow or outshine the team. It's not about me. It's about us. It's about a team effort. And none of these niggas do that. They don't know how to be leaders. They'll even say I'm not a leader, as if you have a choice on whether you're a leader or not. And that's a whole nother live I'm going to do on leadership, because ain't nothing in life I studied more or longer than leadership. We're going to get that later, but this shit irritates me. You can't even lead a conversation. Why the fuck would she follow you outside?
You know what's so funny? When Kevin Samuels used to do Men's Week, and he used to have men call in, it's funny because like men would call in and ask a question, and Kevin Samuels would be like, wait a minute, like, what are you saying? It's like, so what are you asking? He was like, y'all want women to follow y'all and all this other stuff, but you can't even clearly articulate what it is you're asking. Mm-hmm. He was like, I'm a man and I don't understand it. So how you expect a woman to understand what you ask and what you're saying?
You can't make this shit up, people. You cannot make this shit up.
He was like, that's part of the problem. Y'all don't know how to communicate. You don't know how to clearly ask for what you want. Like, but you expect a woman to just follow. Because you a man. Just follow.
Blindly. Right. She had eyes for 30-something years, 20-something years, however long she's been alive, and she's just not supposed to use them because you feel like it, which is fucking retarded. What were you thinking about, Jay, as he was responding to you? Like, what's running through your mind? If that was
like you said, he was spewing talking points at me. Because like you said, I just pretty much asked him, do you feel like some people are built or not built for long-term relationships? And I do think that some people don't have any business being in long-term relationships. Even if you have a good upbringing, sometimes it just doesn't mesh well with you. And I think what people would try to do, and I'm telling y'all, when I was in the other chat, he wrote me a whole paragraph about why I'm alone or stuff like this. I'm just like, what? Like, I've never seen anything like that before, where somebody just write you a whole paragraph telling you, oh, this is why you like it. This is why you like this. And it's like, there's always going to be sometimes multiple ways as to why somebody is like that. And it doesn't always have to be because they had a bad upbringing. You can also, it's okay to add personality into the equation. You know what I mean? It's not always just about how you were raised. Because there were some people that were raised well and they're criminals now. But we tell people if you do have a good upbringing, you won't be a criminal. So it's not going to always be what you want it to be. But that's what happens in these spaces, is that somebody will take this part and they'll take some talking points from over here and they'll slap it together, and they listen to respond instead of listening to understand. And you notice, like, well, I know sometimes when I wasn't looking at the camera, it's really because I was trying to remember what he said. But, you know, they just start talking, and then it just goes into another thing, and then goes into another thing. Because like you said, they've been writing these talking points down in their mind, and they're waiting for the perfect opportunity to say it. Boom, 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 boom. And at that point, you monopolizing the conversation. Because if you notice the guy that had the hookah or whatever, he didn't even get a chance to speak. It's really because what it turned into was them, because he went into a whole nother conversation, because then they found out that I don't want to be married or have any more kids. I already have one kid. So then that just started a whole nother conversation, more talking points. I think everyone should be free to live how they want to live without you automatically trying to diagnose them and tell them why they shouldn't do that. Because okay, so I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't want to get married to have more kids. What if I do that, and I'm like, I should have never did this, and I end up leaving the person, and then they end up with trauma, or they end up in a space where now they coming to YouTube and they're hurt, or, you know, they're get their own talking points now. You know what I mean? It's better for people to live in their truth and be who they are, instead of trying to pretend to be something else and hurt somebody else or create another like situation. And then now it's a whole thing and people are getting triggered. So that's just how I feel. And I just think a lot of people are trying to make everybody live the same. And it's not possible, because we're not all the same. We have different viewpoints. We have different personalities. So what works for you is not going to work for me. That's all. That's pretty much what I was trying to tell him from being in the chat earlier and bringing up that conversation to him. I was trying to drive the point home that you have your way of doing things and I have my way of doing things. You spewing talking points at me is not going to make me change my mind. Right. Maybe in a couple of years I may change my mind, but at this moment, eventually I tuned him out. But at this moment, I have decided what I have decided. And there are reasons why I have decided what I've decided. Most of it is based on personality and other things I'm doing as well. So, yeah, most of the time when people start spewing that stuff at me, I go off in my mind somewhere, because I don't care anymore. Because it's just too much.
But you know what? These YouTube spaces have created an avenue for a lot of people to search for followers, but don't know how to properly lead. And that's a problem. You can't be searching for followers not knowing how to lead. That reminds me of a guy I dated. He wanted to be the one to throw the religious arguments in your face. I'm like, but you're not following scripture. You don't get to throw Bible quotes in my face when you're not following God. Because nowhere in the Bible does say I got to follow your soul to hell, sir. Doesn't say that. Sorry. Follow the scripture and I'll follow you. But you can't be throwing the Bible up in my face and you're not following scripture yourself. That's not how that works.
Facts. I wanted to say this because in the chat we got the righteous fit, we got Couch Game on the panel with me now. And one of the things that's dope about Mr. Palmer channel is that he makes it clear that what guys are going through with child support and child alienation and shit, and these baby mama terrorists, is that you're not alone. So part of like the women in the chat and definitely the women that's on this panel, that you're not alone, that you're not crazy. It's one of the things that help these dudes like get their minds together. It's like, all right, it's not just me. You got people in your face saying it's just you. It's not just you. It's happening to a lot of different people, that a lot of different sisters that don't deserve it. So that's a part of why I wanted to now that we y'all kind of see the dumb shit all everybody gone through, other than like Lexie, and because Savannah was there too. But y'all gonna see how I did the best I can to interject to get the shit back on the right track, but he's a damn.
Hey, World Class.
Yes.
Before you start it back up, since you're speaking about the chat, I wanted to address a comment that was in the chat, or a couple that came from Princessa. I get it. like I said before, I knew that I came in on the end of a conversation, but I didn't hear a point. And the reason why I was excited about catching him live is because I've heard a lot of BGS's listening to some replay, and he has a lot of intellectual conversation. So I was actually looking forward to having an intellectual conversation with another individual. And what a lot of people are, you jump on the fact that I got triggered. I was not triggered. I heard a conversation that men were having about conquering. And as an advocate for child support reform, I jumped in and made a comment about DNA paternity fraud. Because what kind of advocate would I be if I'm listening to a bunch of men talk about, hey, this is what you need to do. You need to go buy this. You need to go overseas and get as much of this, without having that conversation. If you're a history teacher and you hear somebody misquoting history and you know it's wrong,
Right.
what kind of teacher would you be if you allowed that mindset to go on? Now, what they do with the information, once you correct them, that's on them. But as an advocate, I don't walk past any group of anybody talking about, oh, we just need to conquer, or having sex, without talking about the repercussions of sex. When my son was of sex age, we talked about everything about sex, not just the fact that you can get pregnant. We talked about don't use her condom because women poke holes in condoms. We talked about not throwing your condom in the trash can. We had real conversations. So as an advocate, it wasn't that I was triggered by what he said. I heard the sex conversation. So as an advocate for child support reform, I felt the need to jump in and throw out that perspective, because that's what these YouTube spaces are. We're having conversations. So if we can't be open about different perspectives, it's not a conversation. You're talking at me. And that's the difference.
That's a fact. That's what the problem is. And then you don't even have it. Can't articulate, and you're not making sense.
Right.
Talk the points.
They would be fools to resist my divine power. His death was a necessary loss. Soon I will have a new apprentice, one far younger and more powerful. Remember, when a king is loved as I am, much can be accomplished.
We didn't do this because we like you. We did this because we are you.
Boom, the world class.